storytelling is the tie that binds us. It's the through line for all of us, for generations. The stories that we tell ourselves determine our life, but we're not willing to look at where we're at and what led us there and what circumstances have created this, what energies, what thoughts and beliefs have created this moment we're in. I'm really grateful for that experience. It has shown me how powerful I am when I make a
Okay.
decision, when I step forward into that decision and just trust the pieces will fall into place.
When you look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it. In hindsight, be yesterday and your tomorrow. In hindsight, is so much clearer now.
What does it take to turn trauma into triumph and build a thriving, purpose-driven business? Today on Hindsight the Podcast, we'll hear from someone who's done just that. My guest, Crystal Willis, known as the Queen of Personal Reinvention, has transformed her challenges into stepping stones to success. Crystal is a serial entrepreneur and thought leader with over 2 decades of experience in marketing, public relation, and personal coaching. I'm Lee Jones, your host. Welcome. How you doing, Crystal?
Thank you so much for having me, Lee. I'm really excited to be here with you. That was a great intro.
Well, that's funny because I guess I'm excited too because it's like I was butchering it a little bit and trying to piece it back together as I was talking. So hopefully it came
No, it
across
was
okay.
perfect. Yes, it was perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. So where are you calling in from today?
So I'm in Dallas, Texas, and
Another
just
Dallas.
moved here 2 years ago from Los Angeles. Was working and living in Hollywood for almost 20 years. So this is new for me. Yeah.
So you said you're excited to be on here. I'm super excited to have you on here. I've been looking at your Instagram. You know, I think I signed up about a few weeks ago. Watching you on Instagram, and good Lord, you're really living your best life. I'd have to say. It's all that footage in Dallas is beautiful out there. Or you just traveling all
Yes,
over the country.
I've traveled a bit the last month or so.
Yeah.
I do love to travel. I got the travel bug from my parents. And yeah, I'm really blessed to have just amazing friends and get the opportunity to experience really cool stuff working in
Yeah.
media and just building incredible relationships over the years. So a lot of what you see me do, unless I'm by the pool barbecuing like I was yesterday, a
I
lot
didn't
of
see
what,
that one.
yeah, a lot of what you see me doing is just building those relationships, interacting,
Yeah.
getting out, making sure that I'm showing up to support my friends and whatnot. So yeah,
Yeah.
I live a cool
It,
life, I guess.
it's pretty cool, and that's why I had to put these glasses on. I hit the microphone. Look how nervous I am. Starstruck, no, but now I put the glasses on. I'm having a little bit of a headache, and got the lights here, so trying to just mitigate that a little bit. But no, so this is Hindsight the Podcast, and we like to talk about our life, our career journeys, those key moments in our life when we had to make important decisions or we had to have a mind shift, and how those decisions, how those actions kind of culminated into the person that we are today. Everyone who comes on here is very successful in the things that they do, but it wasn't always a cakewalk getting to this point. And most people, they see the end result, but they don't always see what it took to get there. So I like to have guests on here who have been through some things, who have seen some things, but they're still successful in the space that they're in. So that's why I'm super excited to have you on the show. I know you have an amazing story. It is an impactful story that I think the listeners would appreciate. So to get it started, with all of that in mind, what's like an important lesson that you learned early in life that still guides you today?
Oh, wow. Well, my faith, first and foremost, is my
Okay.
anchor. And so I have to put that out there just to preface every transformation or reinvention or triumph that I've experienced in my life is the result of just holding on to that rock. So I would say the biggest lesson that I have really carried throughout my life that comes to mind is the one my mother taught me. And I lost my mother 2 years ago to a rare form of cancer. And
Okay.
she always taught me to let life make me better, not bitter. And I carry that with me because a lot of individuals who've been through difficult experiences, traumas, abuse, whatever it is, they grow cold, they grow hard. We build these boundaries, these walls to protect ourselves, to keep the pain, discomfort out, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times we wind up in a prison of our own making.
Yeah.
And at a certain point in my life, I realized that the idea of me as a victim,
Mm-hmm.
the idea of other people being the perpetrator against me had kept me closed in. It had kept me closed off from my dreams. It had kept me closed off from happiness and fulfillment. And so the step, the first step to healing and to transformation in my life was accountability and awareness, to really become clear on how I was contributing to keeping myself locked in that prison and held back. And so I would say, just for me, it's continuing to look at life through optimistic eyes, through a growth mindset that has allowed me to continue to make my story my footstool. And that's what I try to bake into everything that I do professionally as well.
So I guess it'd be fair to say you dabble in the entrepreneur space. You dabble in business just a little bit, right?
Yes,
So,
I'm
so,
on my
so
eighth,
what do you do
yeah,
now? What do you do now? And go ahead. You said you're on your eighth.
my 8th year of entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And I have taken this journey again with optimistic eyes, right? Didn't have
Yeah.
much of
Yeah.
a parachute when I started off, which
Uh,
I don't recommend.
yeah.
However,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was blessed to have a soft place to land, lots of really supportive friends and family. I
Okay.
did a lot of couch surfing. But yeah, entrepreneurship is my jam. I love, like, as I mentioned, love to travel. I love the
Yeah.
freedom. And so, yeah, I wouldn't give it
What's
up.
your What's your main focus? What's your main business that you do right now? And I'm trying to just preface this like we're going to say this is where you're at, and kind of this is how you got there. You know what I
Wonderful.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am the CEO and founder of the Omni Firm, which is all about building omnipresent legacies, helping people to
Mm,
expand their reach, their impact, their income. So I do a combination of business consulting, helping people understand products, pricing, how to leverage their skill sets. So from a marketing and PR standpoint, we really specialize in helping people to establish and build their brand, but also
hmm.
scale, implement systems. And
Yeah.
so I work with independent artists, I work with small business owners who are just starting up, as well as established corporations, and just taking all of the knowledge I have from my background in the corporate
Hmm.
world, and allowing that to fuel the work that I do with aspiring thought leaders, artists, entrepreneurs. So
When you say artist, you talking Rembrandt, or you talking? Ooh, I am not an artist. Like a singer. You know what I mean? I
that's a
thought that
great
was gonna.
question.
I thought that was gonna come out better than that. So I apologize.
You're silly. So yes, the bulk of my background is in corporate entertainment, music, film, and television. So I've worked a lot with recording artists, musicians. I've
Yeah.
worked with a lot of actors, filmmakers, uh, and television studios as well. So when it comes to entertainment, culture, lifestyle, to work on rollout campaigns, launch campaigns,
Mhm.
and yeah, that sort of thing. So
I tell you what. So how Crystal and I not met in person, but how we met was you linked me up with Krish Sadu, and he was on the show earlier.
yes,
And then I said, let me look, because you looked like you were making some moves. So then I went on Instagram. I looked at Omni. I looked at all these different things. And I was like, oh, I really need to have this young lady on the show as well. And then I read some of your stories, some of your background, and it just made for the perfect guest for Hindsight the Podcast. So,
thank you.
one, thank you for the link earlier. Thank you for connecting when I reached out to you. You're awesome. I appreciate that. And then also, finally, for agreeing to come on the show. So,
It's my
so
pleasure.
thank you. So this is hindsight. So now we're going to go back a little bit, and we talked briefly about you going through some traumas. So what was it like growing up, and where were you from again?
So I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, but I spent much of my childhood in California. I consider
Okay.
myself a Cali girl. Most of my life I've spent on the West Coast. And so I grew up in a two-parent household. I'm very blessed to have two parents who had difficult, challenging beginnings themselves, being an interracial couple.
Hmm.
They had to face a lot of discrimination as it relates to
Yeah.
that. And so, me going into school, elementary school, I was often the only Black girl in school. Biracial, but Black according to our society.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I I was kind of used to feeling a bit of a sore thumb, feeling as though I wasn't quite fitting in. I grew up around a lot of white kids, and so there was my fair share of bullying, um,
Hmm.
for a number of different reasons related to my appearance. But also, I have a father who grew up in the military, went into the military. He's a Marine, and raised, in a pretty strict household himself. And so a lot of his desire to shelter me and keep me safe, and that spare the rod, spoil the child kind of mentality, made growing up a little tough for me. I was scared of him. There was, it was just a very strict household. And
Okay.
yeah, I experienced a lot of emotional dissociation. If I was being sent to my room, I kind of lived in a fantasy world there. And that's where I developed a love for reading and music,
Okay. Okay.
but also where I developed a lot of unhealthy mental patterns of dissociation and limerence and things of that nature that allow me to escape the reality of, being abused or being, just in a home where I didn't feel safe. And since then,
Yeah.
my father and I have had a lot of hard talks about my upbringing and his disciplinary methods.
Hmm.
Growing up with an authoritative parent can make it difficult for you as an adult to learn how to process your emotions. You don't have someone sitting down, validating your feelings and talking through them with you.
Right.
You learn to cope in other ways. And so that kind of set the stage for what would then become the most challenging period of my younger life. At 14, I went into high school. And
Mm.
because I was advanced in math, they put me in an AP class with some older students. And it was
Mm.
there I met we'll call him a man, but an older student there that would become my rapist. And I was
Mm.
raped on my campus at school at 14, virgin. And
Mm.
um, as fate would have it, I became pregnant. I conceived from that experience. And so it was
Mm.
about 2.5 months when I discovered that I was pregnant. And ultimately, that journey led me to open adoption. So I
Okay.
chose to give birth to my child. It was
Yeah.
a hard decision to make. Almost had an abortion twice,
Yeah.
but ultimately, I decided her life was innocent, and I chose adoption, and that's been the best decision for me that I could, God is good. It's been the best decision
Yeah.
ever, because now I'm a grandmother and she's an incredible young lady, 26 years old, doing amazing things in the world. And my relationship with my father has done an entire 180,
Yeah.
and we've healed so much. So I'm really grateful for that experience. It has shown me how powerful I am when I make a
Okay.
decision, when I step forward into that decision and just trust the pieces will fall into place. And I've taken that approach with a lot of other areas of my life as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I've been called the queen of personal reinvention by mentors, leaders in the personal development world. And that's because I don't let anything that's knocked me down keep me down. I will figure out a way to, give honor and glory where it's due and keep it pushing and keep it moving.
Yeah.
So
I love it. I love it. Wow, what a story. You kind of touched on a lot of things in that scenario. And one important thing that I always try to keep in mind as an adult now and looking in hindsight and understanding that you never know what people have been through. But I guess you kind of could, depending on the face that you put on. And like for you, that story would have never come up. But inside of you still experienced this. What I love about what I hear you saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that you've come to grasp with it. You don't allow it to make you a victim. You've owned it. You've dealt with it. You've shifted. You're queen of reinvention.
Yeah, I love it.
You know what I mean? So how was that possible for you? Like, what was the journey mentally for you to get from a trauma, rape, and that was 14, so that's kind of hard. But to get from that point to the person, the Crystal that we see now.
Absolutely. I don't want to sugarcoat it for you, Lee.
Okay.
Because sexual assault trauma is so prevalent in our society. I mean, 1 in 6 adults at some point in their life will experience this, and the rates are even higher in college and certain things. So for me, it was coping. There was about a 10-year period where I lived in shame. I lived in silence. I wanted to go move on with my life and go about my life. However, it turned into methods of coping that were not healthy, whether it was drugs, sex, alcohol, whatever, starting in college and throughout my 20s. And so that stage of my life where I was really just coping and numbing rather than being willing to look at the pain, look at the grief, look at the anger. That's really what that period of my life looked like. And so the first step for me was realizing that I couldn't move forward until I had some type of healing and, got help. And so I got to the point where depression was just becoming so prevalent, was affecting other areas of my life, whether it was my pursuit of my higher education, my career. I was working full time. I was going to school full time. I had started working in the entertainment business in Los Angeles. And, I just realized, well, now I have, come across this treatment center that will offer counseling in this specific area that I've needed for 10 years. Like, I'm going to take them up on it. And so that was the first step. I didn't get to the point overnight where I was able to speak on a podcast or step on a stage and tell my story with that level of calmness and confidence. It started with the privacy of a counselor, and therapy has changed my life. It started with support groups. It started with speaking to women in shelters, just understanding that there is a process. You don't force yourself along that process of healing. It's a journey. It's a lifelong journey. And so anyone that's listening, man or woman who's gone through anything like that, I want them to understand, first and foremost, that healing is possible, because there were definitely points in my life where I felt like mentally, and I would always be this way. I would always struggle with self-esteem. I would always go in these patterns in relationships, but healing is possible. However, no one's coming to save you. And that's the reality I had to accept, is that if I wanted something different, I had to do something different. If I wanted better answers and better results in my life, I had to be willing to ask myself harder questions, better questions. The quality of your life is directly impacted by the quality of the questions you're willing to ask yourself. And so I was willing to face my crap and go to counseling and get the help I needed. And that changed everything for me. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it did. It did. Absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing. Can if you can recall, because sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's not. But if you can recall, can you share a pivotal moment in your journey that shifted your perspective on success?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a shift to, okay, I need to be successful? And you know what I mean by successful. Not like, hey, I'm a millionaire, but it's just successful in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve or do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to one last question. Your previous question, you talked
Uh-oh.
about how bubbly and smiley I often appear. And
Yeah.
that, in a sense, has been one, it's part of my character, my personality to be friendly and joyful and kind. I get that from my mother.
Okay.
However, a lot of times I have worn it as a mask. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. We wear the smiles, we wear the humor, we wear it as a mask. It's a way to cover up how we're truly feeling, what's really going on. You ask your friends, how are you doing? And they just say, I'm good. But once I was able to drop the mask and get clear about the level of dissatisfaction that I had with my life, with my career, with where I was at, I felt working in the entertainment business initially that this is my dream job. I get to work with multi-platinum musicians, superstars. I'm on red carpets at film premieres. I'm organizing PR for major listening parties and things like that. I should be so happy that I'm living this dream job, this dream career as a publicist. But I realized I was not walking in my purpose. I was not utilizing my experiences, my triumphs to better the lives of others in any way. And I was kind of stuck in this stagnant place of feeling that I had to keep up with the Joneses, the Hollywood, I couldn't really just be myself. I couldn't really just let my hair down and go live
I
in
got you.
Mexico for a month you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, the pivotal moment for me with regards to my journey is realizing that I get to define success. I get to define what success looks for me.
Yeah.
Why am I over here crying because I've been passed over for the promotion 3 times to climb this corporate ladder when that's not even what my ultimate dream looked like in the first place? So
Yeah.
sometimes we get caught up in what success looks like from society's standards or our parents' standards or whatever else is around us, that's influencing this grind we got to put ourselves on, right? But when I really took a step back and understood that that was not my definition of success, my definition of success was having freedom of time throughout my day, to have slow mornings, to get up and travel when I wanted to take my laptop somewhere and work. It was totally different than the life I was living, which was, I got to be at so-and-so's recording studio. I got to be on this red carpet. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that working in the music industry, film industry is what made me important and significant and cool. And that's what I needed. That was my core need.
Yeah.
But it was an endless pursuit. It was a dead end pursuit because that level of significance and belonging that I desired could only come from me defining success for myself.
Wow. See, I knew I had to have you on this show because you are conveying all these important lessons that people, you're blind to it. You have your blinders on and I need to stop hitting this microphone because I don't know if it's going to make all kind of noises or not. But you're blinded to these things, right? And you're caught up in someone else's vision of what you should be instead of focusing on who you should be or who you want to be or who you can be or what's your through point or whatever
Yes.
terms you want to use. And just hearing you say it all, you articulated it so beautifully.
Yes.
So,
Once people, just give yourself 5 minutes. Try this. Sit down today, whenever you're listening to this podcast episode, and write out the things you have been wanting or the goals that you have, and really get honest with yourself. How many of these things are things I actually want? How many of these things are any of these things that I've been told I should do or that other people want me to do? We declutter our closets, but maybe we need to declutter our goals, intentions, to-do lists, because if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of those things don't move the needle on how fulfilled we are with our life or how successful we are going to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, next question. How did your personal experiences, personal, professional, like help you approach building your businesses or Omni, or, how did those experiences culminate into Omni?
Mhm.
Yeah, that
That's
makes
a great
sense.
question. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So our personal experiences shape us. So for me, my personal experience of kind of being knocked down or feeling like I never really fit in has has propelled me to create something that is always growing, that is always evolving, that can
Yeah.
always stand out rather than fit in. And so my intention every time I sit down with an entrepreneur or artist that I'm consulting is to get to that differentiating factor. What about them
Yeah.
is so unique? What about their
Yeah.
story is so special and different? Because we all have a story. We all have something special. Even if we didn't have anything traumatic happen in our life, or there's
Right.
always this unique microcosm of being and creation that makes us so unique. Whether it's our parents or our grandparents' background, our lineage, where we were raised, or our unique set of skills and hobbies. And so
Yeah.
I think tapping into my uniqueness, being faced with that decision really to try to fit in or to stand out, has been baked into my business. And
Okay.
two, just resilience and grit. Entrepreneurship
Yeah.
is difficult. It is not for
Yeah.
the faint of heart. I don't want to sugarcoat it for anybody, especially as a Black woman. I will just throw this out there that we are probably the most underfunded group of society. Although we're the most educated now, most Black women are not getting the funding or the capital or whatever to really scale a business or grow a business. And I'm a reflection of that statistic for sure. I've
Yeah.
bootstrapped everything from, not knowing whether I was going to be able to pay my phone bill and my internet to keep my business going, to having months where I've brought in, $20,000. So like, it's knowing that no matter what, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, the difference between those who make it and those who don't make it are the ones that keep going. That's the only
Yeah.
difference.
Look at it. Look at those messages. You just keep slinging them at them. You
Yeah.
slinging them at them. I appreciate it, Crystal.
We're getting some good sound bites today, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. I even got
Goodness.
the one. Let life make you better, not bitter. I even wrote
Yep,
that one
that's
down.
my
So
mom.
I'm
Thanks,
gonna
Mama. Diana Joy. Yep.
Diana.
Diana Joy
What?
Willis. Yeah.
Diana Joy Willis. All right, I love it. Hey, so what's your definition of reinvention, and how do you guide others through that process?
So, my definition of reinvention looks like first becoming aware of where you're at. Self awareness is always the first step to change.
Mm-hmm.
So, any area of your life that you are feeling dissatisfaction with or you desire change, whether it's your business or your life or your relationships, you got to get clear on what's not working, what beliefs are getting in the way, and really become so clear on that. Because
Yeah.
once you know where you're starting, and I tell my clients this all the time, when you know your starting location, then you can chart a course, put the GPS on and chart a course.
Mm.
We often know where we're going, but we're not willing to look at where we're at and what led us
Mm.
there and what circumstances have created this, what energies, what thoughts and beliefs have created this moment we're in. So awareness is the first step. And reinvention looks like taking that and just flipping it on its head. So everything that you have felt as though is a weakness or a setback, to be able to utilize that as motivation, as fuel, to utilize it as leverage, to make it a part of your success story. So if you take, for example, an experience that was really difficult, let's say you've been having a rough time financially and your car gets repossessed and now you're on the bus. Right? You're on the bus, but you have dreams of becoming a millionaire. You have dreams of becoming the senior vice president, but you're on the bus. It's hard to get your mind wrapped around the idea of you being that millionaire or being that executive when you don't even feel like you've got it together. But if you can simply shift your mindset into a state of feeling and knowing that that is inevitable for you, then you can get your energy there. And so I always suggest that you feel it. You know, we say fake it till you make it. Focus on the feeling. Focus on feeling what that success will look like for you. What that new life will feel like for you, what that new identity, that state of being, like who do I get to be in order to step into that? We always want to go to what do I need to have? What do I need to go after? What do I have to have in order to get to that thing? It starts with being. Once we step into a state of being where we can embody who we're becoming, then we will naturally take the actions, the inspired actions, do the steps, do the doing that will get us to the things we want to have. And so a lot of times reinvention is just flipping that around. Like, yeah, I want to have these things. I don't have these things. I don't have these things. I want to have these things. But if we flip it to, okay, who do I get to be in order to be the type of person who has those things?
Yeah. So you mentioned about the map and knowing where you are before you can plot a course to where you want to be. And this is hindsight. So a lot of it is looking at past decisions on how you got to where you are at this moment. The other part of that equation is where do you want to go? You can say I want to be a millionaire, but what does that look like? What does that look like to you? What does I want to be a millionaire mean? So getting a more clearer photo, because you can say, hey, I want to go to Dallas from where I am right now. It'll take you to Dallas, but once you get there, where are you going?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So really, really taking the time to figure out, and this is hard, like what exactly do I see my future self as doing, being, having, all of these things, and just going through that exercise. And then it makes it easier for you to put those address calculations, coordinates. There you go.
Yes, there we go.
Put those coordinates into your GPS, and you can get there. And that helps you to stay on task, stay on point. And it also helps you to make those decisions. So if you know where you're going, it's easier to make decisions than if you don't know where you're going, right?
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing, because I know when I make decisions, do all kinds of stuff, because I really had no endpoint, or I had no final destination in a sense of where I was trying to go. So any decision will do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I just want to reiterate that.
Yes. Get clear on where you're at, but get super clear on where you're going to, what it is you want. You hit the nail on the head, Lee. You have to be so clear on what you want, so decided, so resolved that it's almost as if it's already done. So I already know exactly what I want. And one surprising thing, and I love this subject, like success, manifestation, whatever it is you're creating in your life. Once you realize what it is you actually want, and once you start to do a little research and dig into it a little more, you realize it's a lot more attainable than you may have made it out to be. We make our dreams so big in our mind. We create this wide gap between us and the things that we want. But if we sit down, we might realize that feeling, that experience is so much closer than we ever imagine. Like for me, I love to travel, as I've mentioned, flying on a private jet, or going on a yacht, or the boat life. Like in my
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
vision of success and wealth and all of it, it's there. But I used to think it was this far out thing that I'd have to become rich first in order to be able to experience. But lo and behold, once I started to, embody those feelings, do a little research, it was a lot more attainable than I even realized. In some
Yeah,
cases,
ain't
I'm
that
getting
something?
invited for free by networking and friends to go on the yacht, or you know, I'm looking up semi-private flights and private terminals, and they're like $300 flights. Like, oh wow, I could do that.
Very
So
similar. Yeah.
yeah, you'll find out that the things you want or the lifestyle you envision actually is not that far off or unattainable as you imagine once you start to actually dig in.
Yeah.
Once you go take that tour, take that test drive, and you're like, oh, actually, I could probably pull this off in the next 6 months. Yeah.
I tell you what, I never did the research on the airplanes, but well, yeah, I was in the military for some years, for
Hmm.
a few years. I was assigned to an Army aviation unit, and we had our own Cessnas, we had our own little propeller jets. So I did get to experience it because I used to fly out to our different units across the country. And I sit back there in the back with the table and the leather seats. We landed, the car sitting right on the runway. And I was like, well, damn, this is how the other half lives, huh?
Yeah. The life I envisioned was something like 200,000 a year. Like it's not that unattainable.
Ain't that
And
something?
yeah, favor, you can just experience joy. Like if you look at my bank account, you will not think I'm rich, Lee. But if you look at my
Mm-hmm.
life and you look at the joy, you'll see, oh wow,
That's the
there's
thing. That's the
richness
key.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the key. Success isn't always money. It's rarely money. So anyway, we'll jump off of that one. What mindset shifts were essential for you in transitioning to entrepreneurship? So what did you have to switch in your mind once you went off to your own, doing your own thing, making your own life?
Great question.
Yeah.
I had to get really uncomfortable or really comfortable with uncertainty. I had to get
Mm,
really comfortable with uncertainty. As a 9 to 5er, we get comfortable with the certainty of knowing that that direct deposit's going to hit our account every 2 weeks or every
mm-hmm.
month. And as an entrepreneur, there are times when you will not know, especially in the early stages, those first few years, where the next check is coming from, where the next
Yeah.
deposit is coming from. And so I had to get really comfortable with uncertainty,
Okay.
and to the point where it doesn't phase me. I don't freak out. I'm not frantic, like, oh my God, where is the next thing going to come from? My
Yeah.
energy turns toward, okay, what revenue generating activities can I focus on today? What
Mm-hmm.
lead generating activities can I put my energy toward? And so there was that. The other entrepreneurial skill is being comfortable with solitude and loneliness. Entrepreneurship can feel lonely at times, and that's because you have chosen to set yourself apart from the pack. You have
Yeah.
chosen to find a way to, build your own platform and, carve your own path. And therefore, you're going to have to walk alone at times.
Mm-hmm.
But one skill that I've had to develop is a willingness to put myself out there, to ask for support, to get in rooms where I can feel a sense of community, to invest in being in those rooms. And that leads me to the last thing I'll share, which is the power of investing in myself.
Yeah.
So far in my entrepreneurial journey, I've made about $400,000 gross over the course of several years. But I've also invested
Mm-hmm.
tens of thousands, if not $100,000 worth of investment into my personal development, investment into my business, supplies, equipment, people. And so oftentimes the struggle with entrepreneurship is, I got to have the money first before I can afford to hire help. But I
Mm,
can't hire help if I don't, until I have the money.
yeah.
Like, it's a chicken and egg kind of thing. And I've tested this many times, and the egg always comes before the chicken. So I gotta have, I gotta hire the help, and then I will open myself up to be able to receive more. And that's how it
Yeah.
works. So I have to invest, even sometimes when it seems like I don't have the resources, I will get resourceful.
Got you. I love it.
Yes, sir.
What are some practical what are some practical strategies? All right. So I'm just going to say that, get your mind shifted to that. That you recommend for individuals struggling to overcome limiting beliefs. They don't believe in themselves. They limit their potential. What are some strategies that you recommend?
Definitely practical strategies would include affirmations. I'll put that out there.
Mm,
Number one, it sounds cliche. We hear a lot about affirmations, and they feel a little funny and awkward when we first start doing them. It's like, why am I doing this? This is weird. I'm writing affirmations. I'm saying affirmations. I'm making 3x5 cards, but I would venture to say that any successful person who has achieved any level of fulfillment or realization of their
mm,
goals after setbacks has had to do this practice and gotten to do
okay.
this practice, because it's all about the power of your words. You can
Okay.
speak life or you can speak death. And so it's about getting clear
Mm,
on the limiting beliefs, or getting clear on the stories you tell yourself in your mind.
yeah. Okay.
I'll never
I love
find a
it.
good partner. I'll never find love. There's no
Yeah.
there's no good men out there. There's no good men or women out there. They're all the good ones are taken. If we keep telling ourselves that is the reality we're going to create. Those are limiting
Mm,
beliefs. And so once I start to shift my limiting belief, tell myself a different story, practice that story, rehearse that story, I can
mm,
literally reprogram the wiring in my subconscious. I'll give you one
mm.
quick example. I used to
Cool.
be a pack smoker. A lot of people don't know this
Ah,
about me because I hid it so well. I smoked cigarettes for about 13 years of my life.
okay.
I tried to quit many, many times. I had one woman who was a client of mine, and she'd also hired me to do some work for her, who was helping me through this process. She said I needed to start telling myself that I'm a non smoker. Even if there's a cigarette in my mouth, say to
Ain't that
yourself,
something?
I'm a non smoker, and it's right and easy to be one. I'm a non smoker, and it's right and easy to be one. I started to choose other affirmations like, I am a high value woman, and high value women don't smoke. I'm a high
Mm,
value woman, and high value women don't smoke. I told myself this multiple times every day. I wrote it down in my journal every day, like repetition, repetition,
yeah.
repetition. And sure enough, I haven't smoked. I may have dabbled in Vegas here or there, but I have not bought a pack of cigarettes in 4 years. And I'm so
Nice.
grateful that I was able to shift that belief that I needed that, or that it was somehow helping me to relieve stress. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Uh,
your affirmations are they're building blocks. They're
yeah.
building blocks. It's how we learn to speak when we're babies. It's just hearing the
Yeah.
words
Yeah.
over and over. You can record yourself saying your affirmations and then play it back to yourself. Listen to it on repeat. You can write
Wow.
them. Writing them is your hands connect to your brain. So you can literally rewire your brain, reprogram your brain. So that's really important.
Mm,
That's one practical skill anyone should master.
I love it.
Hmm.
I love it.
I can
All
give you
right.
more, but I want to keep it going.
Yeah, you kind of touched on this, but can you describe a moment when you realized the power of storytelling in your work? I know you like storytelling. I think
Oh,
you were
yes.
PR or something like that. So go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes. So again, limiting beliefs and
Yeah.
storytelling.
Yeah.
So I was searching for a way to set myself apart. Like, what is my unique value proposition? What is the thing I'm going to teach the world, right?
Hmm.
And I started to piece together one that I am a publicist. My job is to help to tell stories through the media of thought leaders, artists, people who are doing amazing things in the world, because those stories connect so much deeper. They connect on a deeper level. Stories are how we connect emotionally to people, places, things. And so I realized that I could make money as a publicist, but I want to make money as a coach. I want to make money helping people shift their limiting beliefs and the stories they tell themselves. And so once I understood the connection there, that's when I decided to make it my platform to help people to own their story rather than let it own them.
Yeah, it is.
And
Say it loud. Say it loud. No whispering.
own your story rather than letting your story own you. That's shifting out of that victim mentality, taking action, right? And so it's just baked into everything that I do and teach, because storytelling is the tie that binds us. It's the through line for all of us for generations. You know, the stories that we tell ourselves determine our life. And so yeah, so even in business, in marketing, we can try to sell a product all day or look at ads all day, but the ones that are going to pop out, the ones that we're going to remember, are the ones that resonate with us on an emotional level. And we do that through storytelling. And so you can tell stories visually, you could tell stories audibly. So that's why you can get a feeling from looking at a piece of art, a painting, graffiti. You can get a feeling from hearing music. It can recall a memory or help you heal from a breakup. So storytelling,
I love it.
it's life for me. Yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Hey, what advice would you give someone who feels stuck in their current career but is unsure how to make a change? I'm hitting you with some good ones, I hope.
Yeah, no, this
Making you
is a
think.
really good one. So I felt stuck in my career around the recession, 2009. That's when I started my career in public relations. I kind of fell into it. Prior to that, I had been working as an executive assistant, office administrator, office manager, and I hadn't quite figured out what my career path would be, although I was working in marketing departments and distribution and sales and all of that. So in order for me to get unstuck, I had to be willing to try something new and get out of the box, think out of the box. I swear I had sent out 200, 300 resumes at that time. Nobody was hiring an assistant. The assistants were clamoring for jobs. Like, it just wasn't happening. And Lee, I'll be honest with you. I got tired of sitting at home watching Maury Povich every day. Like, I was bored of being unemployed.
Hey.
And I was sending those resumes. I was following up. I was sending thank you notes after interviews. But so it wasn't until I decided to get uncomfortable.
Okay.
I decided to get uncomfortable and take myself out to do some networking. I went to some networking events. I went to a party. I met a executive for a record label who worked in public relations, and told him someone had mentioned I'd probably make a great publicist because I know how to write. I'm very outgoing. I can build relationships and network my butt off. And so he happened to be a senior publicist at a record label. And so I said, I need a mentor. I need somebody to teach me about PR. And he said, all right, come to my office, hit me in 2 days or I'll forget who you are. And I was like, okay, I can't sit on this opportunity. So I did that. And he asked me what it was that I wanted to learn. I said, teach me what you know. 6 months. I was an intern for Warner Records for 6 months
Yeah.
in my mid 20s. Yeah, he taught me everything he knew, and that led me to career. So it turned out the next job I took at Disney, it was a temp job. I was filling in for someone on maternity leave in the sales department of the record label at Disney. And I realized there was an opening in the PR department. And so I knocked on the VP's door and said, hey, I just finished an internship with so and so. She was like, oh, I used to work with so and so at this other
Oh
label.
man.
Like, it was just perfect connection. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so that led me to my new career. And I've been doing PR now for close to 15 years solid. So yeah, I would just say think outside of the box, be willing to get uncomfortable and try something different. So if you're
Yeah.
feeling stuck in your career, you're wanting to look at opportunities in other verticals, other industries, put yourself in
Mm-hmm.
those rooms. That's number one. Number two, reach out to your personal network. You know, a lot of
Mm.
times in our job search, we keep it professional, we keep it in our lane, we apply for jobs on Indeed, whatever it is, or we're reaching out to prospects, but we don't actually reach out to our personal network. You
Mm.
know, talk your talk to your personal network. Let them know what the next step in your vision looks like. Ask for their support. Say, hey, if you know anybody who's looking for this type of service, this type of product, let me know. If you know
Yeah.
anybody who's has any openings in this type of role, these are my skills. Let me know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, reach out to the people you haven't spoken to in years and say hi, check on them. How are your kids? By the way, I'm back in the job market. Like, you got to get outside of your comfort zone.
That is a great lesson. That is a great lesson because you definitely can go out and plant those seeds and you just let that plant grow, your network, they're going to have their ears open and that you just putting more, ways for you to find this perfect connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to do the work. But that is a great lesson because so many times you sit and you do this in solitude. You sit and believe this is a one person job to find a job or a career. Networking, you mentioned that earlier. Amazing. I've gone different places, networking, just not really looking for a career, but just networking, sort of like what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people you talk to, the things that resonate, the things that you're looking for, a lot of times you can find it if you just say it out, because there's somebody who knows somebody
Yes,
who's got the perfect answer for you. And it's crazy how it works, but you'll never experience it if you keep it all to yourself. If you keep that desire to yourself, you got to let it out some of the times. That's a great lesson.
absolutely. And follow up, just like that
Yeah,
executive
that's
told me.
another one.
You better hit
Yeah,
me in 2 days or I will forget who you are. And that's standard. Most of us go
yeah,
networking. We come home with a stack of business cards or new numbers in our phone. We don't follow through or follow up. And I promise
yeah.
half the opportunities and open doors you're wishing for in your life are on the other end of you following through and you following up.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of time. One thing I didn't do, and someone was mentioning that when you get the business cards or whatever it is, just put a note where you met this person at, what was the gist or the main topic of the conversation, and then follow up. And then when you follow up, you got a note like, oh yeah, I met him at this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it makes sense. Because I a lot of times I would come back and I have this stack of business cards. I didn't know who they were. At the moment it passed, all that excitement,
Right.
all that work, all that energy, all that synergy, it's gone. It's wasted.
Yes.
So just find a way to make sure that unless you just got one card and then it's easy. But if you got multiple people you're talking to, make sure you put a little note. And if time goes by, you're going to forget who that one person
Mm-hmm.
business card is. So
Yeah.
put little notes on there. That's just a pro tip.
Right. And we meet people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We may meet 10 people at an event. Send them a
Yeah.
quick email. Just say hi or send them a quick DM message through Instagram just to connect. Just to
Yeah.
connect so that one, like you said, Lee, you don't forget where you met them, right? They don't forget
Yeah.
where they met you. And also just to establish that connection. So
Yeah.
definitely you may not know what role or purpose they'll play in your life at that moment, but at
Yeah.
least send the outreach and say, hey, it was a pleasure to meet you. I can't wait to explore where, our connection may
Yep.
go.
There it is. And I tell you one further thing, because networking is a thing, and I love it. I didn't know about it. I was in the Army for a long time, and when I got out, I didn't have to network. I was in the Army, right? So when I got out, there was something that was reintroduced to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? The importance of going out and networking. One of the things that you want to do, from my personal perspective, because people network with me too, and it's like, hey, nice to meet you. You want to buy this? Hey, nice to meet you. You want to get this? You want to get, and it goes right to a sales pitch. Build a relationship
Yes.
first. Build a relationship. Okay. All right. So anyway, that's my second tip.
Man, we just did a whole masterclass on networking. I hope you guys were paying attention and taking notes.
I love it. I
Mhm.
love it. Hey, look. So from your perspective, are there any tools? And I'll say just one tool because we're a little over, and I know you got some things to do. Plus, it's a Sunday, for crying out loud. Are there any tools or resources that you suggest for people looking to pivot or reinvent themselves?
That's a great question. I would
Mm-hmm.
say the most powerful tools that I've gone through are personal development training, emotional
Yeah.
intelligence training. Get yourself into an awesome conference, like a weekend retreat. Put yourself in the room, make that investment. Whoever those mentors you look up to online that you maybe have been following, make it a point to budget to attend that conference next year and put yourself in the room. I think that absolutely, investing too in, whether it's some new equipment or a new wardrobe, whatever it is you need in order to start and embody and step into that new identity, that new life,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
And, we talk ourselves out of the upgrade a lot of times. If maybe we're driving that old trusty Honda, and this was me, like we're driving that old trusty Honda, and yeah, it works great. And no, I don't have a car note.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, that car did not align with my new identity, who I was being, and how I felt about myself at that point.
Okay.
I needed to get uncomfortable, get out of my comfort zone, and do the upgrade. Go
Yeah.
to the car
Yeah.
lot, find a good certified used, and upgrade so that I can
Yeah.
up level my energy, my attraction, my set point. So
Yeah.
there may be some area of your life where you're kind of like comfortable and it's working and you know but also you could do a little something to make a big change in how you feel
Yeah.
and level up your energy.
Wow. I like that because you can use that as your actual story, or you can use that as a great analogy.
Mhm.
So do the upgrade, get to the car
Get
lot,
the
upgrade
upgrade.
that lifestyle.
You deserve
Hey,
it.
so I
Mhm.
know. Hey, Crystal, I asked you a lot of questions. Actually, I asked you a few questions, and thank you so much for digging into it and giving us some great, you call them sound bites, but some great lessons, some great practical lessons that we can employ. But is there something that we haven't touched on today that you'd like to discuss?
Well, I have a new community that I'm building, Lee. It's called Her Limitless Legacy. And this
Okay.
is the container in which I'll be able to talk about all things personal development, mindset, manifestation with other amazing women like myself who've gone through a lot or reinventing themselves, overcoming those obstacles and creating a life
Mm-hmm.
of freedom and wealth and success and whatever that means to them. So,
Yeah.
I would love for anybody who's listening to this who resonates with what I've shared to join me. We're also going to obsessively talk about making money online, building passive income, digital products, sales techniques, like stuff like that. So, um, I'm mindful as well that there's a lot of men that take inspiration and benefit from what I teach. And so definitely just connect with me on Instagram. I'm very reachable, very attainable. Um, and if anyone is looking for some real hands on support or analyzing and auditing of where they're at and helping them chart a course. I'm also available to get on the phone and consultations and whatnot. So I would just say take action, one thing, like messy action, whatever it is, take some messy, massive action toward your dreams before this year is out, whatever that might look like for you. And so if it's something that's been on your to-do list all year and you haven't quite touched it yet, now is the time. Now is the time. We have less than 90 days left now this year. So I want to challenge you to come and tell me, find me on Instagram at Miss Crystal Willis, and come and tell me what you were able to create in the last 90 days of this year, Q4. Let's go.
All right. Messy action. I love that. Man, this is great. Hey, and how can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work? And I know you just said Instagram, and I know you said the new community, but let's say it again.
Yeah, so you can find all my channels through my website, crystalwillis.com, CrystalWillis.com. And there you'll find a link to OmniFirm. You'll find a link to Lip Lady Fab, which is my blog. And definitely come find me on Instagram. I'm on there pretty much every day. I'm going to start using LinkedIn and YouTube more over the next year to use my voice and build my platform and reignite my podcast. So yeah, let's connect on socials, or you can schedule a call. And yeah, I'd love to connect with your listeners.
Thank you, Crystal, so much for coming on Hindsight the Podcast. I know I've thanked you, I don't know how many times, but this was really inspirational. This was really, impactful for me. You've given a lot of lessons. You've reiterated some things that you have in the back of your head, but you need to hear it again from the right person. And you are definitely the right person today. Thanks for sharing your experiences with us and how those things connected you or anyone who's looking to transition or pivot or reinvent themselves. Your message is very encouraging, and thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Lee.
And for the listeners, subscribe to Hindsight the Podcast so you'll never miss an amazing episode like this one with this beautiful young lady here, Crystal Willis. And remember, it's hindsight, man. Take a look back, learn what you want to be, learn who you are, and become that person who you know you're supposed to be. Thank you.
I know that's right.
Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And while I have you here, why don't you take your mouse, go over and click on that subscribe button. No, not right there. Over to the right. Down, right there. Boom. Thank you. Now, thank you for subscribing to Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones.